You've heard of rock stars, but what about Mockstars? My name's Mackenzie Zimmerman, and I'm the founder and original lead singer of Rumours ATL, a Fleetwood Mac tribute band I started in a Smyrna, Georgia basement in 2014. We were one of the biggest tribute bands in the world and one of the highest grossing touring bands in the US. For 11 years, I lived and breathed Stevie Nicks, the velvet, the vocals, the drama, and there was a whole lot of drama. This is the story of how a dream born from a love of Fleetwood Mac turned into something far more complicated. I'm pulling back the curtain, the music, the memories, the heartbreak, and the lessons that came with Starting Rumours. This is Starting Rumours, my life as a Mockstar. There's nothing like the feeling of pulling up behind a venue for the first time. Your first real venue. For me, it was the House of Blues in Myrtle Beach. We felt like we had made it when we left the Enterprise with keys to 2 minivans. We wanted to make the best out of hitting it big time, so we got up early that morning, met up at our rehearsal space, and hit the road with Love's gas stations on our minds. In the early days, we loved stopping at those travel plazas because you could get anything under the sun. And after 10 years of touring, we eventually memorized which ones had the good snacks, the broken soda machines, and the bathrooms to avoid at all costs. When we finally arrived at the House of Blues, a production manager walked up and said, "Are y'all Rumours?" We lit up like kids on Christmas. Yes! Well, good. We're glad y'all are here. Welcome to the House of Blues, Myrtle Beach. Now, let's load in. That moment, it hit me. We'd actually done it. We were here. We went on to play that House of Blues several times over the next decade, and even sold it out once. The sellout capacity was 2,200 people. The first night we ever played there, over 1,200 people came out to see us. They'd never even heard of us before, but they were all there for us. A video crew reached out and asked to record promotional content, and when we got those files back, we really felt like rock stars. The one person I'll never forget was Bill, the sound guy. Long, scraggly beard, dirty baseball cap, wearing a Departure t-shirt. The Journey tribute we played our very first show with. He taught us everything. Raise your hand if you want more. Put it down if you want less. Sing as loud now as you will tonight. Don't sandbag me. We used that phrase for years. He set the bar. Every sound check after that referenced Bill. The crowd was electric that night. After the show, we rushed to our cheesy 80s movie condo. Cramped, tacky, perfect. Threw our bags down and then walked to the beach. I think we passed around a bottle of bourbon, retelling the show like it was already a legend. A cop walked up and we thought we were dead. Famous band, open container, pot on the beach. Turns out he was just looking for a streaker. We had not seen the naked man in question, so he wished us a good night and kept walking. Only on tour. Despite how things turned out in the end, the high notes of being on the road with my friends will stay with me forever. I hope I never lose those memories. Touring was this strange kind of freedom. I spent so many miles on the driver's side of the van, half asleep, watching the world blur by. I saw sunsets, chaos, and once, a truck driver steering an 18-wheeler with his feet while eating a sandwich and texting with the other hand. Another time, just before Halloween, we were cruising through Ohio when a guy dressed as the Joker pulled up beside us, rolled down his window, and smiled. His face lives in my nightmares rent-free. We traveled anywhere and everywhere, sometimes by van, sometimes by bus, and occasionally by plane, which we avoided whenever humanly possible. If you're a musician, backline your gear. Don't check your instruments. Airlines don't care about your guitar. I'm just looking out for my people. We saw Yellowstone at sunset from horseback, the Grand Canyon, in the pitch dark. Authentic Italian food in Chicago where if you didn't say your order exactly right, they brought you whatever they felt like. Joshua Tree, otherworldly, scorching, but beautiful. A show in Tucson where it was 114 degrees and my backstage sticker melted onto my pants. And then, the world shut down. One week we were on stage singing Dreams. The next week, we were disinfecting groceries and wondering if live music would ever exist again. Everything stopped. Everything went quiet. And for the first time in years, there was no makeup, no lace shawl, no van call time. Just me, in a house, with my thoughts and a newborn. It was the first time I realized how much of my identity had been tied to performing. When touring finally came back, nothing felt the same. The crowds were grateful, but cautious. We were grateful, but different. We even had a new Lindsey Buckingham in the band. Our wine bar guy, Doug, he quit during COVID to spend more time with his family, and I don't blame him one bit. Picking the band back up felt like picking up a book after losing your place. You remember the plot, but the characters have changed. And then came one of the strangest, most surreal honors of my life. In the middle of COVID, when everything felt upside down, we got booked at ACL Live at the Moody Theater. And before anyone gasps, no, we didn't play the PBS show. We played The Room, the iconic Austin City Limits venue, because it was one of the few spaces big enough to socially distance an audience safely. Walking into that theater was like stepping into a dream that shouldn't have been allowed during that time in history. The lights were bright, the room was massive, and every seat had space around it. Little islands of fans wearing masks, eyes glowing above them. It felt historic, strange, beautiful, like standing in a moment we weren't supposed to have, but somehow did. I remember taking a deep breath before the first note hit, thinking, music survived. We survived. It was one of the proudest nights of my entire career. Now, let me talk about the routing, because whoever booked our tours was clearly using a dartboard blindfolded. Thanks, Joe. It was always Kentucky, Georgia, then back to Kentucky, then back to Georgia, then to Pennsylvania, then over to Texas, back to Tennessee, down to Florida, and then over to somewhere no one had ever even heard of. We zigzagged across the entire eastern half of the United States like we were trying to win a scavenger hunt. We crossed state lines like we were being paid per border. At one point, someone said, "Didn't we just leave this state?" Yes. Yes, we did. Tour brain is real. You wake up and forget where you are. You forget what day it is. You forget everything except the next venue call time. And sometimes you forget that. But somehow, every night when the lights came up, I could flip the switch and become Stevie again, even when my life felt like chaos. You know, speaking of the road, there was always this moment on tour when somebody would realize we were down to our last few shirts. Every band has that panic, the, oh crap, merch table's empty scramble. So, quick shout out to today's tiny miracle in that department, Terminus Tees. If you're a touring musician or honestly just someone with a dream and a logo, they make it stupid easy to get high-quality merch printed without the drama. And because they love supporting independent artists, they gave me a referral link that gets you $25 off your first bulk order. It's right in the show notes, and when you use it, they give me $25 off my next order too, which means more cute things for the Mockstar Mafia. So everybody wins. Okay, back to the story and back to the van, because unfortunately, merch doesn't pack itself. The Netherlands was one of my favorite trips we ever took. We walked along the canals, snapping photos, drinking cocktails and morning beers, just trying to soak up every bit of success we had achieved. We stayed up late partying in the hotel lobbies and making friends with the passersby out on the street. We laughed until we couldn't remember why. It was pure joy. One of the most incredible hotels I've ever stayed in was located in Eindhoven. It was an 11th century monastery turned hospital during the two world wars turned boutique hotel. The first time we ever stayed there, and we stayed there multiple times over the years touring the Netherlands, we pulled up and Martin, our tour manager, said, "We're here, and yes, it is haunted." I was in, and yes, it is haunted. And then there was New York City. One time, driving over the George Washington Bridge, it was raining, and The Only Living Boy in New York came on. I sat in the back passenger seat watching the beads of rain roll down the sides of the windows. It always felt like I was vibrating when we would pull into New York, even if it was raining, especially if it was raining. I got to do so many cool things in New York over the years of touring with Rumours. The David Bowie exhibit at the Brooklyn Library, walking through Central Park all day and drinking cocktails at the famous Boathouse restaurant, eating dinner at world-renowned chef Marcus Samuelson's Harlem restaurant. New York is magical. Don't let anybody ever tell you the opposite. Georgia Theater in Athens, that was always home base. Even though we were based out of Atlanta, the crowds there treated us like hometown heroes. Those crowds didn't just watch us, they moved with us. You could feel the floor shaking, the lights breathing with the sound. The first time the band ever played there, the line to get in was around the block, and once we finally made it down the 7 flights of stairs to the side of the stage, we could hear the audience chanting, "Rumors, rumors, rumors." It was so loud. We opened the show with Gold Dust Woman that night, and it blew the roof off the place. Atlanta, our actual hometown, holds some of the greatest venues I've ever had the honor of playing. Knowing that I was standing on stage where I had witnessed some of my favorite musicians and bands perform was extremely surreal at times. Looking out into the audience and seeing family and friends was grounding and beautiful, and I was always so proud of myself and the rest of the band for achieving what we had in such a short amount of time. Playing Variety Playhouse for the first time was magical. Buckhead Theater still holds some of my most cherished memories. That venue was the first place my daughter ever joined me on stage. It was the cutest thing. She had her pacifier in her mouth, her blankie in her hands, and after getting restless in my arms, she got down and started jumping up and down and dancing to the music. The audience ate it up. Selling out Smithsonian Bar every single New Year's Eve, 5 years in a row, was beyond magical. That room only held like 320 people, and not comfortably, I might add. The AC, it barely ever worked. There was no bathroom in the green room, and the stage was tiny. But all 6 of us crammed together up there and made some of the greatest memories our band will ever have together. The first time we ever played the Netherlands, the show I mentioned in the second episode, we had flown overnight and arrived around 10 a.m. We had to get in the van with the guy we'd never met and ride 2 hours to this town in the middle of nowhere called Emmen. The festival, called Hello Fest, was a production. The whole set was a blur, although I still remember every moment of the crowd singing Go Your Own Way with us. But I distinctly remember the night of the show in the hotel room. We stayed in this amazingly beautiful hotel near a cow pasture. Despite how much it smelled, it was amazing. I sat on the back porch overlooking the pasture and listened to Keane play their 8 p.m. set at the Hello Fest. It was seriously incredible and one of my favorite tour memories. Just me, alone on that porch, listening to one of my favorite bands, who we had just played a festival with. We'd go on to share the bill with other big-named bands, Lenny Kravitz, Night Ranger, Steven Van Zandt, and we even got to meet a couple celebrities. I have a hilarious story about Kevin Sorbo, the guy who played Hercules on TV in the 90s, But I'm not going to disclose that story here because it is much better told in person. Also, it's a weird one. Also, there's a selfie involved. Now I've got to talk about the people that I shared the road with. Gabe, he was my person in the early days. He was the heartbeat of the band. Hilarious, philosophical, and the kind of guy who made you think about the universe between soundcheck and cigarette breaks. We would sing to each other during the shows, and he would purposely throw in some crazy drum beat in the middle of a song just to see if I was paying attention. I always was, and he knew that. I started getting hip to what he was doing, and I would play the tambourine or cowbell with the same beat right back at him. Gabe made me a better musician, hands down. I would not be the percussionist I am today without learning from him. When he left the band, I was pretty rocked. I didn't think I'd have another special bond like that in the band again until there was Jim. We'd stay up talking about music, cracking each other up with our inside jokes. We also shared a lot of heart-to-heart moments where I'd confide in him about something I was going through, and he would do the same. Having gone through all the abuse I endured, Jim was always willing to walk me to my room after we'd check into the hotel, no matter how late it was. He always made me feel safe. We were there for each other, thick and thin. He's a great musician and an even better dude. I miss playing in a band with Jim the most. Our fans were family too. There was Bailey from Birmingham, who started coming to shows when she was 6. By the time she turned 16, I watched her grow up from that stage. Every single show, she'd come backstage and we'd get a picture together. I still have a picture she drew of me singing on stage and her standing with her pawpaw in the front row. I think she drew it when she was around 7. It said, "Mackenzie here, Bailey here, my family singing to your songs. We love your music." And then there was Susan, the woman in Roanoke who told me that she only had 6 weeks left to live. She said, "I can't see Stevie, so I came to see the second best thing." Moments like that change you. Hugging her after that show was one of the best and worst feelings. In 2016, we got the opportunity to play a summer concert series at Disney World in Orlando. We played 3 shows a day, 30 minutes apiece, on the America Gardens Theater stage at Epcot. We met a family there named the Mackenzies, and they are seriously some of the coolest people ever. Tracy and Harry, the mom and dad, had brought all their kids, and they came to see us at almost every single one of those 30-minute sets. It made us all feel so loved and appreciated. What's even more amazing is that they would come to see us in other cities all over the U.S. They've flown into New Orleans a couple times for shows. They saw us at some random college in Pennsylvania in a gymnasium. And the most surprised we'd ever been by their appearance at our shows was one night when they came to see us in our hometown of Atlanta at Smithsonian Bar. I couldn't believe they were there and kept that secret so well. We looked out in the front row, and there they were. They even invited us to come to their house in Maryland, where we had dinner and drank cocktails Harry made for us. We got so close to their family and their friends, Richard and Nicholas, over the years. I think out of all the fans we became friends with, I miss them the most. But we also made some international friends out of a couple fans who came to see us at every single show in the Netherlands. And they were always in the front row. Joran, his mom Karen, and their friend Astrid, who they became friends with at our show. They're 3 of the kindest and most supportive fans we've ever had. Joran and I, we still talk on a daily basis. And then there was Tom. September 2024, Lexington, Michigan. I was ready to leave it all behind. And there he was, standing by the loading door at Lexington Village Theater, smiling like he'd been waiting there forever. That was the first time in a long time something felt real. I knew in that moment I wanted to be with him. Over the 2 days the band played at the theater, he and I only had casual interactions. And then he found me on Instagram and struck up a conversation. We haven't stopped talking since. And we just recently had a baby together. We're getting married next year. I promise you this is the truth, but I had a psychic tell me in early 2024 that I would meet my forever love at a music venue, and I laughed in her face. The thought of being with a sound guy was not something that I was looking forward to. Luckily, Tom is not that. The joke's on me, I guess. Some of the best nights were the ones that had nothing to do with the stage. Singing at the top of our lungs in the van after a great show, or inventing Fleetwood rap in Indianapolis. Yes, it was terrible. And yes, I absolutely nailed everywhere. That night, we ended up staying in a haunted house. Not on purpose. That part was not fun. Well, maybe it was a little fun. I swear, we all heard the chairs in the dining room dragging across the floor in the middle of the night. Everyone promised that they were asleep, and after the totally killer show we had at the Vogue earlier that night, I believe it. That wasn't the only haunted place we ever stayed. I mentioned the monastery in Eindhoven, Netherlands earlier, but we stayed at this one Airbnb in Sebring, Florida, and when the guy came to meet us with the keys, he didn't seem real. He had this thing about him that none of us could really explain. We all felt it. And that house was creepy, y'all. I have some videos from that night, and they're hilarious to look back on. Despite the house being super creepy, we bonded that night watching Spinal Tap and Almost Famous. We had to rent the DVDs from a red box in town. It had been a while since I'd rented a movie. This episode is brought to you by Terminus Tees, the people I trust with all of my band and podcast merch. If you're in a band, run a podcast, or you're building a brand, you can get $25 off your first custom merch order when you mention Starting Rumours, My Life as a Mockstar. And if you're ready for a big shirt run, they've got a Gildan special going right now. 100 or more black Gildan tees with a white front print for just $3.99 each. But just a heads up, that $25 discount doesn't apply to the Gildan special because it's already heavily discounted. Head to Terminus Tees and tell them the Mockstar sent you. The good definitely outweighed the weird, the sing-alongs, the sold-out rooms, the laughter, the feeling of holding an audience in the palm of your hand. That's what success felt like. Not money, not fame, just that electric thread between you and them. When I look back now, it's the gratitude that sticks. I never took a single show for granted. Even when I was tired or burnt out, I knew how lucky we were. Despite being loosely accused of never being grateful for anything, a narcissist's favorite phrase, I was grateful for it all. Even the worst of it. All of those experiences made me who I am today, and I don't regret a single moment. If I could relive one night, it would be that first Georgia Theater show. The line around the block, the walls shaking as the crowd chanted our name. Rumors, rumors, rumors. That sound still lives somewhere inside me. We had some of the best times at some of the coolest venues. We played the smaller room at Austin City Limits several times and always sold it out. And the coolest thing about it is they would open this giant garage door at the back of the venue, and people walking by would stop, mouth agape, and watch us. It felt so cool to have people paying that close of attention to you. There was also a time when we were in Yellowstone National Park when one of the guitar players in the band was half asleep, and he woke up and kind of looked out the window with one eye open and said, "Oh my God, you guys, look on the top of that mountain." And we all looked, and he said, "It's a yam." And we all laughed and were like, "Dude, I think you mean a ram. Like, how tired are you?" And that was a joke that stuck around for a while. I also have to crack on Doug for a second. The guy that we ended up finding at the wine bar. He was doing the 3 hours of covers, and we thought, oh, wow, this guy is going to be a really good fit to do Lindsey Buckingham. Well, one thing I'll say about Doug is he was committed to everything. He committed to every single part of himself and really every single part of the band as well, even if he went a little overboard. And Gabe, our original drummer, and I were still really good friends. And he told me, Mackenzie, you have to talk about Doug's wig in one of these episodes. So here it goes. The very second show the band ever played, after we had Doug involved and a lot of other people were in their roles that they stayed in for a while, Doug had messaged us and said, oh my God, I found this great wardrobe and check it out. I found a wig that looks just like Lindsey Buckingham's hair in the 70s. So he said, okay, shoot us over a picture. And he sends this picture over, and it's like one of those disco afro wigs. And we're like, I don't know, man. Maybe you should get somebody to trim that thing. It's a little big. He's like, well, Lindsey Buckingham's hair was really big in the 70s. I'm not going to disagree with him. It was really big in the 70s. Everybody had big hair for like 2 decades. But it was a little ridiculous. But we let him wear the wig anyway. And some of the first photos of the band, he's wearing this wig, and they're hilarious. Seriously, some of the funniest pictures ever. And every now and then, just to feel something in my soul, I will open up those photos on my phone so that I can get a good laugh. I love you, Doug. There's songs that will always remind me of them. Not just the ones we played, but the ones we listened to in the van or the bus or late at night in someone's hotel room. It truly makes me sad that we aren't friends anymore, because this all could have been easy. It could have been like when your big brother or sister graduates from high school and they move into their college dorm. You see them during big family events and maybe the occasional weekend. You miss them, but you still have a connection. But that's not how it went at all. Leaving wasn't easy. It's bittersweet. I miss them all, even the ones who hurt me. Because together, we built something over the years that was unforgettable. Even if they can't see it, I know what I created. I know what it meant. To me, to them, and especially to the fans. I'll always carry the high notes with me. Not just the ones we played, but the ones we lived. Next time on Starting Rumours, My Life as a Mockstar. The lights get brighter, the stakes get higher, and the dream starts to crack under the weight of perfection. Starting Rumours, My Life as a Mockstar is written and produced by me, Mackenzie Zimmerman. The stories shared here are told from my perspective and experience. Every rumor starts somewhere, but the truth always finds its voice. Starting Rumours, My Life as a Mockstar is a work of personal reflection. Some names and identifying details have been changed for privacy. Source materials, show notes, and references can be found at www.rumorsatl.com. Thanks for listening, and remember, take care of your heart, your art, and the people who believe in you. I'm recording a special bonus episode for Starting Rumours, and I want you to shape it. If you've had questions while listening about the band, the journey, the healing, the music, the drama, the good, the bad, and the downright wild, now's the time. Ask me anything, seriously. If it's lived rent-free in your mind, drop it in the comments. I'll be answering your questions in a full Ask Me Anything episode, and knowing this group, it's going to be a mix of tender, hilarious, and wildly unhinged. My favorite combo.